This is the a sample website that I created as a way to conceive of your digital storytelling portfolio. And I took the video that I shared with you in one of our previous lectures as a starting point. It's that 5-minute video, standardized. This is what shows up on the landing page. This is the introduction that I was telling you about, basically what is that video, and this may be a brief project description, like maybe what appears in the description field for the video. For some reason this isn't showing up, but anyway, it's what shows up underneath the video as a description. There it is. Let's see, whoops. So that's that. It could be the same description that shows up in the YouTube description. The other required page is the Acknowledgements page, which is the full description of credits and creative rights for all of the artifacts that you included in your video. You'll notice here that I have this disclaimer that regards each of the way that we've used these. All of the sources included adhere to the established guidelines on creative rights. Some are public domain, some are Creative Commons, others are used as the guidelines require us to in terms of fair use. And I've quoted the Documentary Filmmaker's Guide and Best Practices for Fair Use, which is one of the artifacts that I ask you to review in the Creative Rights lecture. I have a disclaimer here that says that the materials labeled as fair use we use these questions. Did the licensed use transform the material? Was the material taken appropriate in kind and amount? And that the bit regarding the materials labeled public domain consisted of works that are either ineligible for copyright or have expired copyright, or perhaps maybe they're owned by the U.S. government, which would make them ineligible for copyright. You are welcome to copy and paste this entire thing. You'll notice that this is the same example that I provided for you in the lecture, Creative Rights example. You can find it under the Course Home tab. You'll want a citation for each of these, and ideally either as a cluster or by each individual item, you'll need to include a specific description of how you have used these artifacts and how they fall under, if fair use, and creative rights, and so forth. Use for a launching off point the exercise that you completed for forum number 5. And then finally, this About page, I will work on this now, but this is a pretty straightforward thing. About is just you. You have 25 words maybe that'll offer a profile of description for who you are. And if you are concerned about having this openly available to the public, then you can certainly use a pseudonym. I wouldn't worry so much about that unless you've had difficulties with that. We certainly welcome you guys to make any decisions that you need to. I've also added a background page, and in this case, this background page might mimic your reflections that you're expected to create, your final set of reflections, where you're just basically offering kind of a behind-the-scenes account of this entire project and how you created it. If you choose to post the reflections online, and I do hope that you will, it seems to be a nice way to kind of put a bow on your final project, then I'll just ask you to include those as part of the what you post in the reflections. That is, see right here, if you choose to include these reflections as part of your digital storytelling portfolio. And again, this is a purely optional, voluntary kind of thing. Just include a link to that page in this section. If you choose not to, if you choose to have them separate, then you would just include a link to, just attach this Word document as you've been doing in the previous weeks. So that'll be the final piece that you do. Okay, so You can include them as a separate background page, or you may decide to include them underneath your project description as on the same home landing page. It seems to be pretty straightforward. Weebly is a very relatively easy site to use. If you choose to use that, it's free, and there are certainly others. Some of you have chosen to use a blog. Maybe you're familiar with Blogspot or WordPress. Any of those are certainly options for this. This is just basically a place to house your project and to serve as a place where your piece can live. The other thing I want to point out, and this is something that we'll talk about in your peer review a little bit more, is that you'll need to include a nice, useful layout of your description. Your description should link back to your digital storytelling portfolio. In this case, I don't yet do that. I'll do that now. Just get your link from the top of the URL. This is the landing page, and go to the description field for this piece, and then just put something like, for additional information about this project, including a detailed list of all source materials used and creative rights claimed for each use, please visit my digital storytelling portfolio at that kind of thing, and then it'll set up that description as part of the link, or part of the piece. So that if the deal is, that means that if people were to encounter your video on YouTube, then they can follow a link to learn more about your project, and that'll lead them to your digital storytelling portfolio. And the same thing if somebody decides finds your page, your digital storytelling portfolio, then they've got that information about the background and the kind of introduction and so forth. So that's that's all about. I hope together these two explanations will be helpful. And if you need help with the digital storytelling portfolio, maybe you're wanting to use Weebly, then follow those tutorials that I offered above these tutorials. They should be really helpful. They're pretty straightforward. Thanks.